The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives filled the massive room, their varied forms creating a living rainbow of colors and shades. Today was special. Earth, a newly discovered spacefaring civilization, would present itself to the Council. Ambassador Tom Reed stood in the waiting chamber, straightening his dark blue uniform. At 60 years old, with gray hair and sharp blue eyes, he carried himself with quiet confidence. He would be the first human to address the full council, and he knew the importance of this moment. "Ambassador Reed, they're ready for you," said his aide, Peter, checking the tablet in his hands one last time. As Reed walked into the chamber, the first whispers began. The alien representatives looked down at him, quite literally, as most species were significantly taller than humans. The chamber itself was built to accommodate races 3 or 4 times human size, making Reed feel like a child in a giant's castle. High Elder Crux, a towering figure with silvery skin and multiple eyes, spoke first. "Welcome, Earth representative. We have reviewed your initial contact package and—" There was a pause, followed by what sounded like a suppressed laugh. "We have some questions about your vessels." The massive display screen behind Reed lit up, showing images of Earth's ships. Compared to the enormous vessels of other species, which stretched for kilometers, Earth's largest ships were barely visible. Laughter erupted from several sections of the chamber. Reed heard someone say, "Are those escape pods?" Another voice added, "Perhaps they're service vessels for the real ships." Reed remained steady, his expression neutral. He had expected this reaction. After all, Earth's largest military vessel was barely a tenth the size of the smallest alien combat ship in the Council's fleet. High Elder Crux raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Reed, surely these cannot be your primary vessels. Where are your capital ships?" "What you see are indeed our primary vessels, High Elder," Reed replied, his voice clear and confident. "The largest is our flagship, the HFY Thunder. While compact by your standards, we find this size perfectly suitable for our needs." More laughter filled the chamber. A reptilian delegate from the warrior Krath species stood up. "You expect to navigate deep space in those toys. One solar storm would scatter your fleet like dust." Reed smiled slightly. "I assure you, our ships are more than capable of handling any space conditions. Size isn't everything, as the saying goes on Earth." "This is absurd," the Krath delegate growled. "These vessels couldn't possibly house any meaningful weapons or defensive systems. How do you expect to protect your trade routes, your colonies?" "We have our methods," Reed replied calmly. "Earth has always believed in efficiency over excess." The council session continued for another hour, with various representatives questioning and mocking Earth's ship designs. They asked about crew quarters. "Yes, they're comfortable." "Propulsion systems. We have our own solutions." "And defensive capabilities. Adequate for our needs." Through it all, Reed maintained his diplomatic composure, never revealing the true nature of Earth's technological achievements. As the session ended, only one council member, an older representative named Robert Green from a species called the Arcturians, approached Reed privately. "Ambassador," Green said quietly, "I notice you didn't mention anything about your ship's internal systems or capabilities." Reed nodded. "There's an old Earth saying, 'Better to be underestimated than overestimated.'" Green's eyes twinkled with understanding. "Indeed, I suspect there's more to Earth's tiny fleet than meets the eye." As Reed left the chamber that day, he sent a brief message back to Earth Command. "First contact complete. Reaction as expected. Proceeding with Phase 2. In orbit above the Council world, Earth's diplomatic vessel, the HFY Olive Branch, waited quietly. Inside its small frame, systems that would revolutionize space warfare slept peacefully, waiting for the day they would be needed. The Council might laugh now, but Reed knew that day would come sooner than anyone expected. 3 months after Earth's introduction to the Galactic Council, Fleet Commander Jane Wilson stood on the bridge of the HFY Thunder, watching her crews prepare for what she knew was coming. The massive display screen before her showed hundreds of small dots, Earth ships, each barely visible to alien sensors, moving into defensive positions. "Status report," she called out, her voice firm but calm. At 45, with short black hair and weathered features, Wilson had spent most of her life preparing Earth for this moment. "All ships report ready, Commander," replied Captain Mike Davis from his station. "The new stealth systems are working perfectly. The alien sensors still read us as cargo vessels." Wilson nodded, her attention fixed on another screen showing recent intelligence reports. The Dominion, a powerful empire from the galaxy's outer rim, had begun its move. Already, 3 peaceful trading worlds had fallen to their massive warships. Each Dominion vessel was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could shatter planets. "Message from Earth Command," announced Peter White, the communications officer. Ambassador Reed's warning to the Council was ignored again. "They're calling it human paranoia." Wilson allowed herself a small smile. Of course they did. They still think we're primitive because of our ship size. She turned to face her crew. "That's exactly what we want them to think." The bridge crew shared knowing looks. They had spent years perfecting their technology, making their ships smaller and deadlier, while the rest of the galaxy focused on building bigger vessels. What looked like simple cargo holds on their ships actually contained the most advanced AI-driven weapon systems ever created. "Incoming transmission from the Arcturian diplomat, Robert Green," White announced. Green's worried face appeared on the main screen. "Commander Wilson, the Dominion has just crossed the Arcturus line. The Council still refuses to act, saying they need more evidence of hostile intent." "How many civilian ships were lost in the last attack?" Wilson asked, though she already knew the answer. 600,000 lives," Green replied grimly. "Their ships are just too big, too powerful. Our largest battleships can't even dent their shields." Wilson's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. "Keep your people safe, Robert. When the time comes, stay away from the large population centers." After the transmission ended, Wilson turned to her tactical officer, John Baker. "Status of Operation Hornet's Nest." "All pieces in place, Commander," Baker reported. "Our ships are positioned near every major Council world, disguised as trading vessels. The Dominion won't know we're there until it's too late." Just then, emergency alerts flashed across every screen. A massive Dominion fleet had just appeared at the edge of Council space. Their ships were enormous, each one dwarfing the largest Council vessels. "Right on schedule," Wilson muttered. She opened a channel to all Earth ships. "This is Commander Wilson. The moment we've prepared for has arrived. The Dominion thinks they'll find easy prey here. They see our small ships and think we're harmless. They see our size and think we're weak." She paused, looking at the determined faces of her crew. "They're about to learn that humanity has never needed size to be deadly." "Execute Operation Hornet's Nest." Wilson out. Across Council space, hundreds of seemingly innocent Earth trading vessels quietly began powering up systems that had never been detected by alien scans. Inside each tiny ship, revolutionary weapons came online, and advanced AI combat systems activated. The Dominion was about to learn why Earth's ships were small, not because they had to be, but because that's exactly what humanity wanted them to be. Like the most dangerous predators in nature, they had evolved to be compact, swift, and lethal. As Wilson watched the massive Dominion fleet approach, she remembered an old Earth saying, "The bigger they are, the harder they fall." The storm was here, and humanity was ready. The Council's largest defense fleet hung in space around New Eden, their massive ships forming a wall of steel and energy shields. 10 kilometers long, each vessel carried enough firepower to level a continent. The alien crews felt safe behind their enormous weapons and thick armor. That feeling of safety lasted exactly 6 minutes after the Dominion arrived. The first blast cut through the Council flagship like it was made of paper. The massive ship, pride of the Council fleet, split in half before its crew could even raise shields. Around it, other Council vessels scrambled to respond, their huge engines taking precious minutes to power up. "This is impossible," shouted High Elder Crux from the Council's emergency command center. "How are they cutting through our shields so easily?" The answer came as they watched another Council ship fall. The Dominion vessels, each one larger than a city, weren't just big, they were efficient. While the Council had focused on building bigger ships, the Dominion had perfected their weapons. Within an hour, New Eden fell. Within a day, 3 more Council worlds followed. On the UES Thunder, Commander Wilson watched the reports come in. Her small bridge crew worked silently, each monitoring the disaster unfolding across Council space. "Message from Earth Command," announced Peter White. "We are cleared to begin Operation Hornet's Nest." Wilson nodded. "Send the signal. All ships, execute Pattern Delta." Across Council space, Earth's tiny vessels began to move. To alien sensors, they looked like scared trading ships fleeing the conflict. No one noticed that they were actually moving into carefully planned positions. "Commander," called out Captain Davis, "the Dominion fleet has reached the Arcturus system. They're beginning their attack pattern." Wilson's eyes narrowed. The Arcturians had been the only ones to treat Earth with respect. "Not this time," she muttered. Battle stations. The UES Thunder and its escort of 5 smaller ships dropped their camouflage. Gone was the signature of simple trading vessels. In their place, energy readings spiked to levels that should have been impossible for ships their size. "Ma'am," Baker reported from Tactical, 3 Dominion dreadnoughts approaching the Arcturian capital. Their shields are still configured for Council weapons. Wilson allowed herself a small smile. "Perfect. Launch Strike Pattern Alpha. Let's show them what Earth's toys can do." The Thunder moved forward, its small frame barely visible against the backdrop of space. The Dominion ships didn't even seem to notice it. Why would they? It was smaller than their smallest support vessel. "All weapons hot," Baker announced. "New targeting systems online. Eye combat assistance at full power." "Execute," Wilson commanded. The Thunder's outer hull seemed to shimmer, and suddenly the ship wasn't just small, it was nearly invisible. Decades of research into light-bending technology, combined with advanced eye-targeting systems, made the Earth vessel a ghost in space. The first Dominion ship didn't even know what hit it. A series of precise strikes, each one no bigger than a missile, struck exactly the same point on its shield. The impacts, perfectly timed by the AI, created a resonance cascade that shattered the massive ship's defenses. "Second volley," Wilson ordered calmly. This time, the shots went straight through the gap in the shields. The giant Dominion ship, large enough to house millions, was crippled by a vessel it could have stored in one of its landing bays. In orbit around the Arcturian homeworld, Robert Greene watched in amazement as the tiny Earth ships danced between the massive Dominion vessels. Their size, which had been mocked for so long, made them nearly impossible to target. Their advanced technology, hidden until now, made them deadly beyond belief. "Send word to the Council," Greene ordered his staff. Tell them we were wrong about Earth. And tell them we need their help. All of it." As the message went out, more Earth ships dropped their disguise across Council space. The Hornets were emerging from their nests, and the giants of the galaxy were about to learn why size wasn't everything in a fight. The UES Thunder glided through the debris field that was once a Dominion battle fleet. Commander Wilson stood at her command station, watching the tactical display as more Earth ships emerged from hiding across the galaxy. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite having just witnessed her small ship destroy a vessel 50 times its size. "All systems at 90%, Commander," Captain Davis reported. "Eye targeting matrix is learning and adapting to Dominion shield frequencies. Each hit is becoming more effective." On the main screen, a massive Dominion dreadnought turned its weapons toward the Thunder. The enemy ship was beautiful in a terrifying way. 20 kilometers of advanced technology shaped like a massive arrowhead. They're finally taking this seriously, Wilson noted. Tactical, show me what one of these giants can really do. The dreadnought's attack was impressive. Hundreds of energy beams lashed out, each powerful enough to vaporize a conventional vessel. But the thunder wasn't conventional. The small ship moved like a dancer, its AI systems predicting and avoiding each blast with precision that would have been impossible for human reflexes. Our turn, Wilson commanded. Show them why humanity chose to build small. The Thunder's response changed the way the galaxy would think about space combat forever. Instead of trying to match the dreadnought's power, the Earth ship used its size as a weapon. It darted between the massive energy beams, getting closer with each pass. "Ma'am," Baker called from Tactical, "the dreadnought's tracking systems can't lock onto us. We're too small and fast for their targeting computers." Wilson nodded. "Execute attack pattern Echo. Let's show them what David did to Goliath." The Thunder suddenly split into what looked like multiple ships, an advanced holographic system designed to confuse enemy targeting. The dreadnought's weapons scattered, trying to hit all the targets at once. Meanwhile, the real Thunder slipped through their defenses. "All power to the phase cannons," Wilson ordered. "Target their main reactor housing. Fire when ready." The Thunder's main weapon didn't look impressive. It was barely visible, a thin beam of concentrated energy. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in precision. The beam hit a spot no bigger than a car, right where the dreadnought's reactor shielding was weakest. The result was devastating. The giant ship's own power turned against it, cascading through its systems in a chain reaction. The mighty dreadnought, pride of the Dominion fleet, was crippled by a ship smaller than its bridge section. "Message from the dreadnought," White announced. "They're surrendering, Commander." The bridge crew fell silent. This was unprecedented. A Dominion capital ship surrendering to what they had called a toy just days ago. "Message from Earth Command," White continued. "The Council is requesting an emergency session. They want to know everything about our ship designs." Wilson smiled. "Tell them we'll be happy to share our technology after we deal with the Dominion threat." Across Council space, similar scenes were playing out. Earth's tiny fleet was proving that bigger didn't mean better. Human ships, with their advanced AI systems and precise targeting, were running circles around the massive enemy vessels. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Reed watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. The aliens who had laughed at Earth's ships now watched in awe as those same ships systematically dismantled the most powerful fleet in known space. As I said, Reed addressed the Council. Size isn't everything. Earth learned long ago that efficiency beats excess. Our ships are small because that's what works best for our style of combat. High Elder Crux, who had once laughed at Earth's vessels, now leaned forward with interest. "Tell us, Ambassador, how many more of these remarkable ships does Earth have?" Reed's smile was diplomatic but carried a hint of pride. "Enough," he said simply. "More than enough." In space, the Thunder prepared for its next engagement. The Dominion was learning a lesson that Earth had mastered centuries ago. Sometimes the smallest opponent could be the deadliest. The Council's main war room had changed dramatically in the past week. Where once stood proud alien leaders who had laughed at Earth's small ships, now sat humble students of human warfare. Commander Wilson stood before them, explaining the basics of Earth's combat doctrine. "The problem isn't that your ships are too big," she said, pointing to the holographic display. "It's that you never learned to think small." The display showed a massive Council battleship trying to fight off a swarm of Dominion attackers. The huge vessel's weapons couldn't track the smaller, faster enemy ships effectively. "Watch what happens when we apply Earth's combat principles," Wilson continued. The hologram changed, showing the same Council battleship now accompanied by 20 small Earth vessels. The smaller ships moved in perfect coordination, protecting the larger vessel while striking at enemy weak points. "Your size gives you power," Wilson explained. Our size gives us speed and precision. Together, we're nearly unstoppable. High Elder Crux raised one of his four hands. But, Commander, how can your small ships carry enough power for effective weapons? Wilson smiled. That's the beauty of it. We don't need massive energy weapons. Watch this. She pressed a button, and the hologram showed an Earth ship attacking a Dominion vessel. The smaller ship fired what looked like a tiny projectile. That small projectile, Wilson explained, contains an eye-guided system that analyzes shield frequencies in real time. It doesn't need to overpower the shields. It slits right through them. The council members watched in amazement as the tiny projectile penetrated the Dominion ship's defenses with ease. Meanwhile, in orbit above, the UES Thunder was demonstrating these principles in real combat. 3 Dominion cruisers had jumped into the system, thinking to catch the Council homeworld defenseless. Multiple targets detected, Baker announced from his tactical station. They haven't spotted us yet. Deploy the new drone swarms, Wilson ordered. Let's show them our latest surprise. From the Thunder's launch bays emerged hundreds of devices no bigger than footballs. Each one contained a miniaturized version of Earth's shield-penetrating technology. The Dominion ships never stood a chance. The drones swarmed around them like angry bees, each one finding and exploiting weak points in their defenses. Within minutes, all 3 cruisers had gone dark. Back in the war room, the Council watched this display with growing excitement. We're beginning to understand, Robert Greene said, speaking for many. Each of your ships isn't just a vessel. It's a platform for launching even smaller weapons. Exactly, Wilson agreed. And now we're going to teach your crews how to do the same thing. Over the next several hours, Wilson and her team shared the basics of human combat doctrine with the Council's military leaders. They explained how to modify larger ships to carry swarms of small attack craft, how to coordinate attacks using AI assistance, and most importantly, how to think differently about space combat. Size doesn't win battles, Wilson concluded. Intelligence does. Precision does. Coordination does. As if to prove her point, reports began coming in from across Council space. Earth's tactics, now being adopted by Council forces, were turning the tide. The Dominion's massive ships, once thought invincible, were falling one by one to combined fleets of large and small vessels working in perfect harmony. Message from Earth Command, White announced on the Thunder's bridge. The Dominion has lost 12 major battles in the last hour. They're beginning to retreat from Council space. Wilson nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy was learning what humanity had known for centuries. That victory didn't depend on size, but on how you used what you had. In the depths of space, more Earth ships emerged from hiding, each one carrying technology that had been perfected through generations of careful development. The tide of war had turned, and the giants of the galaxy were learning to respect the power of thinking small. The largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history hung in space near the Arcturus line. But unlike previous massive gatherings of ships, this one was different. Massive Council battleships floated side by side with swarms of smaller Earth vessels, a combination that would have seemed laughable just months ago. Commander Wilson stood on the bridge of the UES Thunder, which now served as the command center for the entire combined fleet. Next to her stood Admiral Mark Stone, the overall commander of Earth's forces, and High Elder Crux himself. All ships report ready, Captain Davis announced. The Council vessels have been fitted with the new drone launchers, and their crews have completed basic training in our combat systems. The Dominion won't expect this, Admiral Stone said, his weathered face showing a hint of a smile. They think they're facing the same old Council ships. Begin the operation, Wilson ordered. All ships, execute jump pattern Omega. What happened next would be recorded in history books across 1,000 worlds. The combined fleet didn't just jump into Dominion space. They appeared simultaneously at 30 different locations, each group targeting a key Dominion military installation. The Thunder led the attack on the Dominion's main shipyard, a massive structure that built the enormous vessels they were so proud of. As soon as they dropped out of jump space, Wilson's crew sprang into action. "Launch the new carrier drones," she commanded. From the Thunder and its escort ships poured thousands of devices, each barely larger than a small car. But these weren't simple attack drones. They were carriers themselves, each one containing hundreds of even smaller attack units. The Dominion's defense fleet responded exactly as expected, moving their massive ships to intercept what they thought was the main threat. They completely ignored the tiny drones. "They still haven't learned," Admiral Stone observed. "Execute Phase 2. The carrier drones suddenly split open, releasing clouds of microfighters. Each one carried a scaled-down version of Earth's most advanced weapons. The swarm looked like a cloud of metallic insects against the backdrop of space. "By the stars," Crux whispered, watching as the microfighters tore through the Dominion's defenses like they weren't even there. "We spent centuries building bigger ships, and all this time." "Size isn't everything," Wilson finished for him. "Sometimes the smallest blade cuts the deepest." On the tactical display, more battles unfolded across Dominion space. Council battleships, now protected by screens of Earth-designed drone fighters, pushed forward with unprecedented confidence. Their massive weapons, guided by human eye targeting systems, struck with pinpoint accuracy. "Enemy flagship detected," Baker announced. "It's the Dominion Supreme Command vessel." The ship that appeared on their screen was enormous, even by Dominion standards, a 30-kilometer behemoth that had never known defeat. Until today. "All ships, implement attack pattern Delta," Wilson ordered. "Show them everything we've got." The Thunder led the charge, its small frame darting between enemy fire. Behind it came waves of drone carriers, council battleships, and squadrons of Earth vessels, all moving in perfect coordination. The combined fleet fought like a single organism, each part supporting the others. The Dominion flagship never stood a chance. Its massive weapons couldn't track the smaller ships, its shields couldn't adapt to the constantly changing attack patterns, and its commanders couldn't predict the eye-assisted tactics. "They're sending a surrender signal," White reported from communications. "Not just the flagship. We're getting surrender messages from Dominion forces across all combat zones." Admiral Stone turned to Crux. "High Elder, I believe this is the moment where your people officially stop laughing at our tiny ships." Crux's multiple eyes blinked in agreement. "Indeed, Admiral. It seems the galaxy has much to learn from Earth about the true nature of power." As the combined fleets secured their victories across Dominion space, Wilson looked at her tactical display with pride. The dots representing Earth's ships might have been small, but they had changed the course of galactic history forever. The Dominion throne world of Supremus filled the main view screen of the UES Thunder. Once a symbol of overwhelming power, now it stood as a testament to the folly of underestimating smaller opponents. The combined fleet of Earth and Council vessels surrounded the planet, their formation a perfect blend of massive battleships and nimble Earth vessels. Commander Wilson stood with Ambassador Reed and Admiral Stone as they prepared to accept the Dominion's formal surrender. The Thunder's small bridge, once mocked by alien visitors, now hosted the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. "To think," High Elder Crux mused, looking around the compact but efficient bridge. "We once thought this ship was too small to be worth noticing." "A mistake the Dominion made as well," Reed replied diplomatically. "Though I must admit, watching their faces when we revealed our true capabilities was quite satisfying." The main screen flickered to life, showing the Dominion Supreme Leader. The massive alien's usual arrogance had been replaced by a look of grudging respect. "We hereby surrender to the combined forces of Earth and the Galactic Council," the Supreme Leader announced. "And we formally request access to your ship design principles." Admiral Stone stepped forward. "The technology will be shared, under proper supervision. The galaxy needs to understand that bigger isn't always better." As the surrender ceremony concluded, Wilson received reports from across former Dominion space. Earth's tiny fleet had changed everything. The concept of massive warships was being reconsidered throughout the galaxy. Already, shipyards were being redesigned to produce smaller, more efficient vessels. Message from Earth Command. White announced from his station. They're declaring Operation Hornet's Nest officially complete. All objectives achieved. Wilson nodded, remembering how long they had planned this. Earth had known that someday they would need to prove themselves to the galaxy. They had prepared quietly, letting others underestimate them, waiting for the right moment. "Commander," Baker called out, "Council ships are reporting unusual energy readings from the surface." Wilson's eyes narrowed. "Tactical analysis." "It's some kind of massive weapon system," Baker replied. "They were hiding it underground. It's bigger than anything we've seen before." The Dominion Supreme Leader's image reappeared, this time with a sneer. "You may have defeated our fleet, but this weapon can destroy entire star systems. Perhaps now you'll understand why size does matter." Wilson exchanged a calm look with Admiral Stone, then opened a channel to all Earth ships. "Execute final protocol." From the surface of every planet, moon, and asteroid in Dominion space, thousands of tiny objects suddenly activated. For months, Earth's trade ships had been seeding these miniature devices throughout enemy territory. "What are those?" Crux asked, watching as the tiny dots appeared on the tactical display. "Insurance," Wilson replied. "Each one is smaller than a coffee cup, but contains enough processing power to hack and disable any system within range. We call them Techmites." The massive Dominion weapon began to power down as the Techmites did their work. Across the planet, every military system larger than a personal weapon quietly went dark. "You see," Reed explained to the stunned Supreme Leader, "while you were building bigger weapons, we were perfect infiltration devices. Your entire empire has been sitting on our shutdown switches for months." The surrender that followed was unconditional. The galaxy had learned its final lesson about the true nature of power. Earth's population might be smaller, their ships might be tiny, but their innovation and strategic thinking had changed warfare forever. 1 year later, the Galactic Council chamber had been redesigned. No longer built only for giant aliens, it now accommodated beings of all sizes. Earth held a permanent seat, and their tiny fleet had become the model for a new era of galactic peace. Ambassador Reed stood in that chamber, addressing the newest members of the Council. "Remember," he said, looking at the diverse gathering of species, "the greatest power often comes in the smallest packages. That's not just Earth's philosophy, it's the future of our galaxy." High above, the UES Thunder patrolled with a mixed fleet of large and small ships. The deadliest predators in nature, after all, weren't always the biggest, just the smartest.